on to our next session. In this panel, the discussion will be around the key accelerating development and provide what some may describe as shortcut to success in the aquaculture industry. Our panelists will answer the questions of finding aquaculture jobs, recruiting interns, and finding career mentors. On our panel, we have Kathleen Offman-Mattison, CHRO at Greek Seafood Norway. We have Leah Stoker, Senior Consultant at Aquaculture Talent. And we have Tina Garlinsky-Gonski, Director of Human Resources at Greek Seafood BC. We will have an opportunity for the audience to ask their questions to our panelists at the end. So send them on the chat right now and I'll keep an eye out for them. But first, let's start with some introductions. Kathleen, Leah, and Tina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Why don't we start with a bit of an introduction? So my first question will be, what first brought you to the aquaculture sector and how long have you been a part of the industry? Kathleen, why don't we start by you, since you're the first on my screen there.
Thank you. Well, I started in the aqua industry, on the seafood industry in 2016. So I have a long background from the oil and gas, and I was actually told that you shouldn't join the seafood industry. It's so conservative. So that's what actually made it exciting or interesting for me, because I was thinking if it's so conservative, there is an opportunity to make some changes. So that was my goal to join the industry.
Leah, why don't we jump next to you?
Well, aquaculture is near and dear to my heart. I loved to fish when I was in high school back in the 1980s, and I worked at a pay lake, and I saw the fish coming in to be dumped into the lake for these fishermen to catch and recreationally, excuse me. And I started talking with the guy who was the delivery truck, the delivery driver who raised these fish. And I asked him, how do you do it? How much does it cost? How much do you charge per pound? This and that. And I thought, you know what? I want to be a fish farmer. And so I went in and studied aquaculture back in 1984 up at College of the Redwoods in Eureka. They had a fisheries program then. And then I transferred to Texas A&M and I studied some aquaculture there. And then I went on with life and had children and, got married, had children, started a business. And then I became a career counselor and a recruiter and had always had this love in the back of my heart, for aquaculture and had friends in the industry and all of that. And here I joined Aquaculture Talent, 2.5 years ago because it meshed my love for fish farming, aquaculture, and recruiting and helping people to get on with their career and, develop their career.
I think we can all relate to that, Leah, the multitasking you were talking about. Julie was talking about in her presentation too. All right, Tina, how about you go next?
Well, like Leah, I have a similar story. Grew up fishing, absolutely love fishing. My first real job was at a small marina at the time in Browns Bay. And that's when salmon farming back in the early 80s was just really getting up and going. And so I was exposed to it. Transmar Shipping, they did, I would make deals with them and I would tell my parents, I shouldn't probably tell my parents I was staying at a girlfriend's house and I would make deals with Transmar Shipping. If I did the cooking on the boat, could I go out and do the harvest trips with them? And so that was my first introduction to salmon farming. And then like Leah, I was an animal health technologist for 10 years and I transferred into career counseling and worked with Work BC. And what I found was at the time I was working with the aquaculture companies in town, and that's where so many great opportunities and careers were being offered. We were traditionally a pulp and paper town that had closed. There was a lot of cutbacks within forestry also and mining, and people were transferring into aquaculture, was just providing really great opportunities for careers so people could stay in our beautiful community. And that's what attracted me. And so in 2011, I live in Campbell River and I moved away from my family during the week to take work in aquaculture in Port Hardy. And I did that for about over a year and then transferred it back to Campbell River, and I've been in industry ever since. There's not many great jobs where you get to go out and just hang out with really great people and see beautiful fish. And, you know, I can't imagine working in any other industry.
Thank you, Tina. Let's hope your parents are not watching this, right?
Yeah. I think if my daughter was ever to do that, I would. Anyways, it was a great experience.
There you go. And here you are today, right? All right, hopping on to our next question. What are common challenges that recruiters face in hiring in the aquaculture industry? Leah, why don't we start by you?
There's a few challenges out there, as recruiters will know, who are in this industry. And I would say that, you know, the pool of candidates in the industry is pretty small and specialized, you know, depending on the position. You know, the skill sets, the experience, you know, within the United States are at a certain caliber, and sometimes we have to look outside of the US, which is the challenge in itself. So we want to be, you know, US based and be hiring people in the US to have these US based jobs. So, you know, bringing people up into these more specialized categories, or, you know, raising them up and training them and getting them to where they need to be. And sometimes also another challenge is, you know, people are happy where they are, very happy where they are. They don't want to move around. So, you know, trying to pull people, you know, in another direction sometimes, like, hey, are you interested in this or that? And they're, no, I'm very happy. I like to hear people are happy, by the way, when they are in a position that they love. And another challenge I would say, and I'm sure, you know, the other ladies would agree, is, you know, with pay and compensation, you know, and making that offer and trying to negotiate that compensation and being fair and right, you know, for the individual. So there's a few challenges there, but I think we can overcome it working together.
Thank you, Leah. Tina, why don't you go next?
Well, I think it's recruitment right now is just challenging. And I think, you know, particularly we find that in aquaculture, but, you know, in HR networks that I participate in, I'm finding that in all industries. I honestly don't know where people are working. It's shocking. And, you know, it's just so easy to have move in and out of employment. And so it's not even so hard of getting people to come and apply for jobs. But you also get, you know, people who are like, well, you know, I gave this a try. I'm going to try something different. It just seems to be, that's a real challenge. So, yeah, it's unfortunate because there is so many great opportunities for building a career in aquaculture. And as Julie mentioned in her great keynote, was, I think she's right. We need to start tapping into getting more awareness out there about the possibilities for career at the high school level. You know, that's where people know that this is where you can go and build a career. I do see that as a gap. So yeah, I know. Well, even restaurants, you can't even get, restaurants are closed half the time because they don't have staff. So I think just right now, recruitment in general, all over, is very challenging.
Kathleen, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I do also think that recruitment in general is hard because we're all looking for the same type of talent or skills. On the other side, we have a long way to go when it comes to working on our reputation, also to tell the story about the aquaculture. Why should people join us, and all the opportunities that we have there, because there is a lot of really talented women out there. And sometimes when we are hiring for the position, I can get some feedback that, oh, we didn't find anyone, we tried hard, but there was nobody available. I mean, which planet did they look for? Because there is a lot of good, talented women there. And sometimes you just need to change, call it your strategy, to get more women, maybe in the lower level in the pipeline. And then once they're in the company, you need to make sure they stay there and create opportunities, because it's not about how many you're able to get in the company, but how you treat them. and make them stay, because if they stay and they have great opportunity, they will actually tell the story, and they are the best ambassador when we are recruiting. But of course, there is a shortage of competence. We can see that back in Norway and Europe as well.
All right. Our next question is, what kind of gender balances or imbalances are you seeing within the employment pool in general? Kathleen, why don't we start by you?
Yes, a good question. As I just shared, I do see a higher interest when it comes to applying for position, but it's still kind of a way to go to actually make sure that we have the right competence on board. And in some company, unfortunately, there are men in the top position that are recruiting, and they will sometimes recruit the type of people that are equal to themselves, and that's not diversity. But we do see, like in Norway, that there is more interest, but there's still the story that we need to tell, because the aquaculture have changed. There's a lot of new technology coming into our industry, so it's not like in the old days with all the hard work. So there is more opportunity than people think about, and I always look for other industries as well. I come from the oil and gas, and I know that there's a lot of good competence, and we need to get the best talents into our industry and make them stay.
Leah, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, when aquaculture talent is recruiting and hiring for, we have many clients all over the world, and in the past 48 months, our hiring rate for females has been 40%. 40% of everybody that we have hired, or had hired within the industry are female. So there, is a slight imbalance. But I think given the industry, we can see those numbers increase as we, continue to grow as an industry, and, bringing awareness to the industry, like Kathleen said, pulling from other industries, which we often do in regard to production and, quality and, these different types of positions, research and science, sales. We can pull people from other industries in who are interested in growing in this industry. And so they have, through the pipeline and through the advertisements and through the growth of this industry and in the whole world, and now, the US is continuing to grow in the industry, the awareness is becoming larger and larger, and people want to enter into the industry. So we have females that have different backgrounds, males that have different backgrounds, entering the industry and, opening up a whole new world for us as recruiters to be able to bring professionals into the field. So, the imbalance, I think, is going to level out and neutralize at a certain point. And it does depend on the position. Traditionally, men have been farmers and women have been support roles in farming. And, people who have an interest in doing that can certainly get the training and move into those fields that are lacking and need more women.
That's a great point, Leah. So, and I'm going to go ahead and ask Tina, since Leah mentioned that they have a 40% female employment rate, how many men and women professionals do you see during the recruitment process?
So we're starting to see a lot more female interest, and particularly the women that we are having coming to apply to work at Grieger in the industry are coming with high levels of education. So they've gone in to study aquaculture sciences at some point, and they're so the women that we are bringing in generally are coming with a high level of education. And so between 2020 and 2021, we doubled the amount of women that were working at Grieg BC. So you do see a lot of particularly for the frontline jobs, getting people out to the sea sites with camp work, you do generally get more men interested, but we are getting a lot more women who not only are applying for it, but thriving and loving the work, working out on the sea sites. As Kathleen mentioned, there's a lot of technology advancements that have happened. The work is, and women generally work smarter, not harder than the men. And they find ways to work around, there was always sort of that when we were talking about, unconscious bias or, it's always like, well, women aren't strong enough. Well, women are smart enough to figure out how to get it done without and that's feedback I'm getting from managers at the seaside level, that women find ways to get things done. And that's because we're getting super talented, bright, young women wanting to come in and build a career with us. So, so on the sea sites, we do generally, I think it's about 24% women working at in like technician. But in our support services, it's like, so that's things like HR, safety, we're at about 77% women. Our hatchery is 50-50 men and women. So, we really, our SMT, the executive team at Greek BC is 50% women. So we're really starting to see not only in key leadership and support positions, but we're also starting to see an increase at the production level too, with people coming out to work on the sea sites.
And Kathleen, I would like to direct this question to you, since you mentioned earlier a point about the recruiters being men and wanting to hire people who are exactly like them, right? So do you think there are other ways the recruitment process and culture might be biased towards one gender over the other?
Yeah, I do. One of the things that we implemented a couple of years ago is to say that all the key position in the company, in the final heat, the last interview, we should always have a man and a woman. And that's when they have to go back and search for that potential candidate. But it's also a way to force them to think in a different way, because as we all spoken about, there is a lot of really good, talented people out there. And sometimes you also just need to say that they don't need to have all these years of experience. We just need to get them in and to train them, because that's an investment. If you're looking for the perfect candidate to stand outside your door, you will be waiting and wait, and we don't have the time to wait all that long. And we, in Norway, we are actually forced to report, being transparent in the gender payment, the gaps, and how many women we have working part-time, full-time. There was a new law coming into Norway last year. So everything is becoming more and more transparent, and you can't hide anymore. So you need to make sure that everything you're doing is, to ensure that there is no discrimination, no harassment. One of the things that I think Julie also mentioned in her presentation, there's a lot of rumors about our industry, and we need to get rid of those and tell the good story. But yes, there is some, I don't think they always mean to have that kind of mindset, but it happens during recruitment. And that's why the decision makers needs to be there to see the unfair process, and to have like the board needs to participate in the gender policy. Everything needs to be anchored from the top. And as Tina mentioned, there has been done a huge amount of work to increase the female representation. But it's also important to get more women into the production, not only the support function, because there's a lot of women in support function, but I want to see them in the production, in the seawater, freshwater, and the CEO, of course.
Leah, would you like to add to what Kathleen said?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would you like to add to what Kathleen said? Would you like me to repeat the question? Do you think there are ways that the recruitment process and culture might be biased towards one gender over the other?
no, I don't see that where I sit. And so, when I work with clients, they are pretty open to the candidates that we bring forward. And I know that in our own process at Aquaculture Talent, we are extremely fair, and we don't look at gender when we're looking at candidates. I mean, I rarely even look at a name. I'm looking at qualifications, and when I do see that it is a female, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's wonderful, because I like to put females forward, and we like to do that with our company. We also have a We Are Aquaculture, which is a subsidiary of Aquaculture Talent, where we spotlight people in the industry, and a whole lot of them are women that we have placed and gotten to know. And I would say that that's probably 50% or more who we spotlight on there, to bring awareness to the industry and the people who are working in it. So I don't see it as much where I sit, and I know that the company that I work for, and the clients that we work for, are extremely fair and open, to the candidate pool that we present.
Tina, would you like to add to what Leah said?
I don't see, there's definitely, I agree with Kathleen that there with the hiring there, you can see those gender biases, but I also am kind of with Leah, because women have become so much more visible working in aquaculture. And I even have site managers that would actually prefer to have women come and join the team. They see the value that they bring to the full environment, what they do as far as, the caring for the fish. So the production, I agree with Kathleen that the production is really where we need to put our focus and get good people in and have good mentors, support them in their development. And because I would love to see there be a 50-50 at minimum split of our site managers being men and women. And I think when we get more to that level where we have women running farms, that's where we're going to be able to attract more women and keep more women in the industry and on the production side.
Thank you, ladies. And here goes our next question. What have you found in terms of a skills gap or difference between men and women applicants? Are there noticeable differences in the types of jobs that women and men are hired for? Tina, why don't you go first?
Well, I think we've kind of touched on that a little bit. Generally, the applicants that come in, I find the women generally are more educated. They're coming in with higher levels of education. Definitely you see more women, as Kathleen mentioned, we see that more in support services than we're seeing at the production level. It's camp work, and as we touched on, that can be very challenging for traditionally the mothers are the caregivers, and so camp work is a huge barrier for a lot of probably very talented women out there that would do really well in aquaculture. So yeah, I see definitely more we see in like certification, fish health, environmental. We do get, we do have strong women candidates and even women more dominated, but those are the jobs that take them home every night. So, yeah.
Kathleen, would you like to add to what Tina said?
Yeah, I actually agree on that, because when we have all these different types of position, we would employ the best candidate, but we do see that there is a difference between what the male and the female will apply for. There is a huge amount of female that will apply for, the support function or fish welfare, those kind of position. But as we already touched on, we would like to see more in the production, because we do believe that more women out on the site will be good for the for the whole company. So yeah, I think that we are quite fair. You know, the best candidate will be hired regardless. There are certain areas of our company where you see much more women, that there are actually more women than men. Like we do have like a sales organization, the majority are women.
Yeah, I think, well, if you look at numbers in the university, mostly men are taking and graduating with engineering degrees, and and that's just in the numbers. And so the technical aspect of, say, a RAS or recirculating aquaculture system requires somebody that has more technical skills. And so I think that in that way, like a position like that in production, and we might find more male dominated industry, or in that sector, that part of the industry. But when it comes to other roles within the industry, leadership roles, the other food production, the processing part, quality control, and research and science and fish welfare and sales. And, there's so many other aspects of aquaculture where women fit perfectly in at this moment. It's just bringing that awareness up that these are the positions that are lacking women in these types of positions. And so go and study those things, go and learn those things to be able to enter the field there if you're interested in those positions, because there are highly technical positions that traditionally in this industry men have filled, and more women are coming up. I know women who are wonderful production leaders in the aquaculture industry, and they're very dynamic, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they create such great leaders for teams that I hear that women in those positions are even better leaders than men can be, because of their ways and the things that they care about the most. And so we need women to be entering the field into those positions and be building them into those leadership roles and allowing opportunities for them in that way. So I think that answers the question on my end.
For sure, Leah, it does. Thank you so much, ladies, for your great answers. Our next question is, what about gender pays? Are there ways that we can have more salary transparency in the industry? Kathleen, why don't we start with you?
Yes, I think I touched on it, but being transparent, what you're paying. What I will actually do on annual basis is to go through all the female salaries in all the companies to make sure that they are paid for the job equal to a man. And it's really hands-on, but I truly believe that if we don't make that effort and look at it, it would just kind of disappear. Another thing is to also make sure that when they are on different types of leave, that you have a lot of flexibility on it, but the pay thing is important. And especially because women will be out of work life because we're having children, and then we come back and we lose a lot of opportunity. So yeah, but as I said, looking at the pay structure on a regular basis to make sure that they are competitive and equal to the male colleagues. And it's just something I've been doing for many years, and it's important. There has been differences there that needed to be changed.
Tina, would you like to add to Kathleen's answer?
Well, I agree with Kathleen. Is definitely, there's many conversations about making sure that we not only have competitive wages, but the women are paid just as well as the men. So that's definitely a focus at Grieg ASA that filters right down to BC. So again, as Kathleen said, we do a yearly review to ensure that women are paid the same as men, and I don't see any. I see it being very much the same at my experience at Greek BC, where definitely the women are compensated just as well as the men. So,
How about you, Leah?
Yeah, when I speak with a client, or when we speak with a client as a company, and we establish a certain salary with them, it's a salary range, and it's going to be, whether it's a male or female, that's the range. And it's up to the companies, on the company level, like Greek does, which is fabulous, to do those reviews and know where you stand as a company and how you're compensating fairly. That's very important, and it shows the integrity of the company. But from my end, I have a range, and that's what I'm sticking to. And whether it's male, female, or whatever, alien, I don't, it doesn't matter. That's what it is. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leah. Thank you, ladies, for all the great answers. I actually have a lot of questions here, but looks like we're running short on time. So I'm going to go ahead and see what questions we got from the audience. All right, so these questions are not directed at anyone specifically. So if you want to answer, please feel free to just jump right in. First question is, do all of you focus on recruitment or finfish aquaculture? And what talent and skills are you looking for?
I can start with the answer for that. So with recruitment, my team generally does a lot of the recruitment, but what we look for is definitely people who have invested in their career for education. So we actively recruit form very good relationships with a lot of training institutions to go and do recruitment at the completion of when the programs are completing. But for the production, talking on the production, there's people who generally love the outdoors, love to fish, as Leah said. People who are really active. You'll see a lot of commonly people who are really involved in hunting, fishing. They generally really thrive working out with long nature. And really, the key thing is we raise a live product, and we want people who care about the fish. It's amazing the passion you see out on the seaside. It's like they're not just fish, like the love that goes into these animals that we're raising. So being compassionate and really caring about and caring about not only our fish, but caring about the environment and caring about, all the interactions we have with the other, animals that we share our space with where we're growing our fish. So those are key things that we look for when bringing people on.
All right, moving on to our next question. Speaking more broadly, what measures need to be in place to reduce barriers, increase access for women to start their own businesses?
I think there's a lot of opportunities out there for women to start their own businesses. I would say just having the background and experience and some business sense and support from community and financial resources. There are places that you can like earlier when Julia was talking about a mentorship. Connecting with people in the industry. I have spoken with so many people in this industry around the world who have their own companies, and they have something in common, and that's a passion for what they do. And I think if you have that as a foundation, and you have a mentor and you have connections and a network that you can, reach out to and say, how, I have a stumbling block. How could I overcome this? There are people out there who want to help you and help to get you to where you want to be. It's a matter of networking and reaching out and making a business plan and having a focus.
Thank you, Leah. We have more of a comment here than a question, and it goes, I just want to make sure that we don't stereotype women who don't want to do the hard work, because that's just not true in my experience. Women have incredible endurance, multitasking ability, and physical strength who enjoy the boots on the ground work. I think it's a problem with not having a supportive team to work to their strength.
You know, can I just make a comment on that?
Sure.
It's just quickly. So true. Definitely women have endurance. We give birth, we raise children, we carry all the groceries in with, 14 hands and, kids on our back. I mean, women are a force and women are strong. Traditionally, and on, certain farms that I've seen, I see all male dominated farms. I mean, they are the ones doing the labor, and it's not because they don't want a female out there doing it. It's just because there are not a lot of women out there doing it. So there are places, there are open opportunities for women in this industry to go and fill positions that could be extremely laborious if that's what you want to do, or there's other positions where you can support that. So it's open. The industry is open and encourages everybody to be involved. It's just a matter of raising awareness that these things do exist, these positions do exist, and there's true possibilities out there.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I just support what you said, Leah. Women have incredible strength, so we need to make sure that we're using that, and hopefully the summit here will inspire more women to just stand up and believe in themselves. Either you're creating your own business and you just need to use the network. Don't hesitate to contact people, because one of the things that I was asked to do when I had a mentor was to write down the 10 women that influenced me or that inspired me. And it was just such a great exercise to just do that on a piece of paper. And the next task was to contact them, which was kind of, oh, can I do that? What if they say no? But a no is a no, and then you just move on. So, reaching out, even if we don't have a lot of, or if you feel that you don't have a lot of role model within your own industry, well, look for other industries. People are more kind than you think when they get an email or a message, hey, would you like to have a coffee with me to just talk about opportunities? I do that all the time. And I love doing that. It's the most, funny thing I can do in my life.
Just a quick comment, and I really appreciate that comment, because when talking about, when we were earlier having the conversation about some of the challenges, that is one of the biggest biases that you hear when talking with some site managers or men that are in the field. It's like, oh, well, women aren't strong enough, or women, and that's absolutely not the case. It is amazing. Some of the, I agree, women we're strong, like you say, we have babies. We're strong, not only physically, but emotionally. And that's something that brings so good out to the sea sites. And so when I do think that that's just something that we face as being women, that sometimes people just don't think we're strong enough because we're women. And that's absolutely not the case.
Thank you so much, ladies. Unfortunately, we reached the end of our time here, but thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. This was a great conversation. And if we didn't get to your question, please feel free to message our panelists privately in the chat box or reach out to them. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be involved.
Thank you.